every time here starting from round 2. His Camille is often even target banned in the first banning phase because that is the strong top side they are trying to play around, and T1 just continues to follow suit here, taking away the Callista though as well.
Really going to be taken off the board here, so a very powerful support pick. It does get countered a little bit by Alistar, which is a very common response to it, but we still see first pick Rels from time to time. This does leave some of the jungle pool open, and that does mean that Udyr will be the first pick for Clid.
And Clid taking this right away goes back to that top control theme that we were talking about. And, you know, they have the opportunity, Gen.G, to get that strong top laner, perhaps even the Camille that has paired very well with Udyr historically, if they want to. A Rumble here blind would be very weird. I think that was just a tease there. So we will see the Seraphine come through because that one is left open.
Oh boy.
And we're also going to get Teddy's Senna here. So very successful, you know, bottom side lane that you can even have as well. Potentially, we've seen Seraphine rise to power in other regions, and LEC even been played as bot. So there's a lot of flexibility with this draft here for T1 just to start things off.
It just makes me feel like you're putting either Faker or Carry on to Seraphine, and I'm just like, well, I don't think a lot of fans are going to be happy with that, but we'll see. We'll see where it does go, where it does end up, but it should be one of those two. As you mentioned, Camille gets picked, and BD picks his Azir. He's played 25 games, or he's played 31 games. 25 of those games are either Syndra or Azir.
Yeah.
He doesn't really play anything else nowadays.
You know, this is a very, very, very strong top side of the map, and the Azir, which is going to have kill pressure on so many different mid laners, especially if Faker ends up playing a control mage as you expect. There's kill pressure in the mid lane with the Udyr. There's kill pressure in the top side into a lot of different matchups. You have full control over that portion of the map, and you already know what T1 is going to be strongest on the bottom side of the map. Historically, that's where they have had their best success with Teddy on the roster. So focusing on the top side, which Gen.G has been doing all season long, is kind of an obvious choice here. We'll see the Hecarim come through here for T1. That's going to give you a lot of power counter-wise on the map, and especially around team fights if you can set those up. But I think that Faker is going to need to have a strong mid laner who can counter that Azir pressure, so that maybe they can counter gank when those come through. Level 6 is a terrifying moment as we see the Tahm Kench ban come through. It's also been a favorite with the Senna, especially over in the LEC.
Yeah. I'm glad the Kench is benched. Not a big fan of the pick. I don't, even with the Senna, I'm just like, no, I don't think it's good enough. But a lot of teams seem to think it is, so I will pick that away.
I really worry about the Seraphine in the mid lane, though. If that's where T1 are actually going to send this against a composition that has so much kill pressure and so much power around the top side of the map, I'd rather see something a little bit more stable in the mid lane. Even an Orianna that Faker is so good at, which can allow him to have that really nice disengage, with, just drop his shockwave down and walk away from a lot of those fights. I'd prefer that to the Seraphine, which I feel like could just get totally snowballed against here with the draft we have for Gen.G. So, looks like we might see that Gragas response to the Camille, very common.
The Gragas, if it does go in the top lane, maybe a little bit better survivability up against that incredibly strong top side of the map. I'm the first guy to say, hey, where's the Scion? But I don't know if you want to do that into Camille Udyr against Gen.G. They're just gonna dive you over and over, and it just seems like a really rough time even for Scion. So maybe just banking on the fact that Gragas should be able to handle the pressure a little bit better.
He has really nice sustain, and his explosive cask can really mess up the Hextech ultimatum exchanges that you sometimes have around the tower, because he can knock you into tower range while you're under Hextech ultimatum, and that's usually enough to prevent the kill or at least get a trade. So it ends up being a really nice matchup that Scion can't necessarily pull that off consistently. As Life hovering the Yuumi here. Shout out to Sicaria, who did play that a few weeks ago to less success.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost a troll hover. It's like, hey, I was watching your Yuumi game.
It's pretty good against the Hecarim. The Karma, though, I feel like is a much safer choice, and that is what they're going to lock in. So a lot of potential extra healing coming through, depending on the build, and you'll be able to empower Azir in a lot of these team fights, because what Gen.G lack is a strong front line, but you end up building Moonstone, or Moonstaff, I should say, and then Azir becomes so fast, becomes so potent in these fights. If he's taking a little bit of extra damage, he's going to be the one getting those heals. And then your damage is going to spike super hard in the late game. So we'll see Carrier lock in the Nautilus support.
Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty common duo partner with the Senna. If you're not going to see something like a Tahm Kench, but at the end of the day, right, you're a tank melee support up against Ezreal Karma, one of the most aggressive, assertive lanes in terms of its poke potential and just harass potential, right? I don't think it's going to be a fun time unless Faker plays Nautilus, which, okay. No, they're going to swap that one at the last second. I'm like, okay, I don't think it's 2019 or whenever the mid-Nautilus was coming up again. Maybe that was the beginning of 2020.
I would have actually been okay with it, to be honest. I don't think it would have been great, but my issue with T1's draft is the Seraphine, because it's Faker on Seraphine. You know, he's going to be very stable in lane. He's someone who very rarely gives first blood or gets solo killed there. His positioning is phenomenal. I mean, that's not what he's famous for. He's famous for his solo kills and his aggression in the mid lane. But he's a player who's very smart and is going to be able to deal with that level 6 timing we're going to see from the Azir. But where is the healing going? Where is the Moonstaff, you know, for Faker going to actually go? I mean, Kana is going to be playing a Gragas that's more of a disengaged Gragas. He's not going to be a big, strong frontliner. If all your heals are going into carry as Nautilus, that's okay, but it's not fantastic. I feel like if you're putting Seraphine in mid here, you're losing out on a lot of control over the map, because he's going to have to play so defensively throughout the majority of that early game.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Faker can handle it. As you mentioned, he is definitely a player that can, and this is a lane where the Seraphine is going to be harassed, going to be bullied. A lot of players get very behind on CS. Hopefully, Faker can kind of take away some of those negatives from the mid Seraphine. Obviously, their team fighting later on in the game is going to be insane, but there's still also a really nice amount of scaling on the side of Gen.G, and it's not even like you see big boy Sion in the front with hyper carry Jinx. It's kind of like a hybrid version of that, where they're going to have a lot of their damage coming out from the fasting Senna that Teddy is going to be playing here.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of damage outside of that Senna, so, you know, can they break through Gen.G's composition with just that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Seraphine was picked up early, because that's how Seraphine drafts work. Because if she's left open, you've got to get it. If you want to take that, you can't wait till later, because it will just be snatched up. But you know, in a perfect world, if they could just go, can I get a mulligan on this? They'd probably, I think, maybe rather have something like a Victor here in the mid lane with the composition they've built for just more consistent damage.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what Faker can do here in the pairing that you have with Encore is really good with the Hecarim. If you can have that perfect team fight where you set up 2 ults back to back, and then suddenly there's a cast, and there's just so much damage output throughout that moment from Teddy that you do win the fight. But it's so wombo based, and it is so easy to play around because it's so predictable. And that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, you know, you're highlighting that their team fighting later on is going to be pretty ridiculous, right? They have insane amounts of CC, and we actually saw this in the LEC last night. You and I were watching the game and actually talking about it, and they had an Urgot top where there was a lot of damage coming out from that, but their team fighting was just insane, right? Where they had the 80 carry Seraphine and all the big boys go in, and it's just you CC the front line for ages, and whoever you catch, even if it's the fed Tahm Kench, doesn't matter, they're going to die. So maybe it's kind of along those lines. Maybe the T1 coaching staff were also watching that game and taking notes, but you know, it remains to be seen. And Gen.G have a lot of tools in their kit to kind of avoid team fights if they would like to, right? To send Rascal in the side lane and just ignore them, kind of like Fnatic failed to do yesterday. And maybe you have some better success there.
Yeah, I mean, Udyr is going to constantly be threatening vision control around the jungle, because that's what he does very well in the late game. He gets very quick, he's very fast. It's not going to be a Cloud Soul, so that's something. And missed cannon in there. Not going to be a Cloud Soul, so that's something that's going to make him a little bit less speedy, which, you know, in the LCK, you could almost bank on that when you're in draft. You're like, well, we'll probably get a Cloud Soul later, so. But yeah, he has that ability to disengage. Azir has nice disengage. Ezreal has Arcane Shift. There are ways to avoid these fights, as you said, but also to just set up better for them because of the positioning that your composition allows for. You know, if you get caught, if someone gets picked, if like a solo encore comes through with a follow-up Hecarim grabbing somebody, then it's kind of on that player who gets caught if you're Gen.G at that point.
Seeing Life getting pretty aggressive in the lane. It's kind of what you want to do. Some of that poke damage will be nullified by the healing that does come out from the fasting Senna. And keep in mind when we look at the jungle here, it is going to be double scuttle going the way of Clid. So they're really trying to exert that pressure, the priority that they have from the mid and the top lanes, and just say, okay, Hecarim, you're just by default going to get behind the Udyr here.
Yeah, and this can be a serious issue because it's not like Hecarim can really come in and try to fight the Udyr straight up. I mean, he can look for those types of skirmishes and 1v1s, but he's just not going to be able to keep up. Like, this is a pacing issue, and the jungle speed clear that Clid has on top of it all makes it so difficult. He's looking for a pick here, and really just flashes it.
Yeah,
or arcanes it, rather.
Shifts away.
So easy to dodge.
Yeah, if Keria hits the hook there, you're definitely getting summoners, you would imagine, because Ignite comes out, Life probably would have to flash away, maybe even has to exhaust. But no hook means no summoners. It's just Cuz showing up, going for a pretty aggressive gank that doesn't necessarily work out.
I think that the LCK as a region is pretty good at knowing these sorts of timings and handling these situations pretty well. And even if there are summoners burned there, you know, it's a failed gank and it's a Hecarim that's behind in CS quite significantly, just behind in farm. And I am personally not a huge fan of Hecarim. It took a while to take off in this region, and it isn't being utilized very well. People are struggling to find value. He's finding himself getting very far behind junglers like Nidalee and Udyr, who could just clear very quickly. And, you know, I talked to you about this a little bit yesterday. I'm just not a huge fan of it in our region because our region doesn't overextend, doesn't play aggressively when Hecarim's on the board. You see Hecarim get a lot of kills in LPL and get huge advantages there in particular. Like, I feel like that's the region he excels most in. But here, it's harder to find that same kind of value in the early game.
Hey, you don't see it all too often. Hecarim obviously going to be farming out the jungle pretty fast himself. But, you know, I love the Ezreal response from Ruler. He's like, okay, you know, you guys are going for a bit of a wombo combo team fight. If I can just avoid that and, you know, take this pick that should be able to survive much better and output really consistent damage in the later stage team fights, I should be just fine. And obviously it's Ruler's Ezreal, so nobody's unhappy about that. No, just when it comes to the pick and the comfort that Ruler has shown on this choice. So really liking Gen.G's position here, especially after the way this early game is going. Pretty quiet so far.
Oh, this is a very aggressive rotation in here by Faker and Cuz, and they are spotted.
Yeah, I don't think they can 2v2 here. They are going to get the smite down, though, and Cuz is just galloping away, so I suppose that works.
That went about as well as it could have, I think.
Yeah. You did not want to fight there.
Yeah, that was a very greedy play. If you had bot priority, then it doesn't end up being a 2v2, and maybe you could even turn that Scuttle take into a Drake fight, but obviously in this case, not going to happen. Clid has 6.
Yeah.
Watch out, Cuz.
This is what you can do. You could just start to bully. I mean, Faker's up in the top side of the map, and he wasn't spotted going up there, but just the fact that they still have that priority, the push from the Azir, means that Udyr up a level just gets to do whatever he wants, and should be able to get a free Cloud Drake, you would imagine, if he wants it, although he is not running at that just yet with the Scuttle control. They wouldn't know he is going for it, so maybe he wants to wait a little bit.
Now that BDD has hit 6, you know, he's level 7 even, in fact, in this game. You have to be scared of that possibility that you're going to get ganked as Faker in the mid lane. So making those rotations and trying to get value as you get the wave kind of pushed and frozen towards your turret is really smart play around the Seraphine. You don't want to get caught, as we saw some Seraphines getting a little bit overextended in the LEC yesterday too. I'll just since we're talking about it.
All right, here we go. The combo comes in onto Rascal. The Hextech ultimatum just trying to survive, but he's not really in range. And oh, that flash was just as desperate as it comes. Very nice conversion from T1 to get on up there. And Kana has been dominating this top lane and really shutting down Rascal.
I mean, he really has. And this is, you know, the Gragas into the Camille. I feel like it's such a good matchup at dealing with Camille, but he's not only just stable up here and not afraid of this Udyr Camille, but in fact is trading aggressively because Camille you know, when there isn't an Udyr nearby, you know there's no real kill pressure on you. And you know that Udyr has been on the bottom side of the map so much, you just commit the body slam here, the cask is easy, and Cuz is here just to guarantee. And the Hextech Ultimatum isn't saving anybody. The flash is actually tragic. But, you know, this is just really good understanding from Kana as to where the resources are actually being spent for Gen.G this game, and taking advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little thing there, I love that he went for the flash body slam. You see a lot of body slam flash. I think that kind of caught Rascal off guard. He's like, okay, I'll wait for the body slam to start, and then I'll hook shot away or something like that, or flash away. But he never got that choice. Now we're fighting over the Rift Herald here. The smite is going to go to Clid, actually. Cuz is like, maybe I can pick it up. No, you can't, buddy. You didn't get the smite down.
Now Faker's stuck here. This is not a good situation.
They're actually trying to turn it around here. Cuz is taking a lot of the aggro on the bottom side. Teddy and Keria both roaming up. And now you can see Clid is in a lot of trouble. Kana gonna pick up that kill. And even though they don't get the Rift Herald here, T1 will at least pick up the 1 kill. At the same time, though, Ruler's getting free farm in the bottom lane.
Yeah, Ruler's getting some free farm, but this is definitely, you know, turning a bad situation into a decent one on the top side. And it was a really nice play from Cuz. And they were not afraid to take that fight. I really thought Faker decides to rotate in quickly, then he might end up getting Emperor's Divided. There were a lot of tools that Gen.G had to really explode in that fight, but they were patient. As we're going to watch this again, Clid gets the steal to start things off. You can see BDD is rotating up, and he rotates actually to the right side here, so he's trying to prevent a retreat. Starts poking Cuz down, and at this moment, if you like froze it there, I'd be like, okay, well, how did T1 turn this around? And they just zone out Rascal, and Cuz prevents anybody else from joining up, so they just trade super well on the top side of the fight, and Clid just can't get out. Cuz's great chasing power.
Kana's having a ridiculous game so far. I know I was one of the guys who was kind of skeptical with him coming in after his performance the last time out, but man, he is on a huge roll tonight, and I really want to point that out because, I mean, he's shutting down the top lane. His team fighting has been insane. The mechanics in the gank on the top side, pristine. And now he's got the most gold in the game, actually. He's the most fed. He's 2-0 on the Gragas top. And it's not just a neutralizing pick anymore. This is a problem for Gen.G. He's going AP too, so he's going to start bopping some nerds.
Yeah, he is going to be doing quite a bit of damage, and the positioning for Gen.G is going to be really important. But crucially, too, this means that Rascal will not be able to be a menace on this top side. He won't be able to threaten kills, get early turret plates, won't be able to be putting pressure on side lanes as early on in the game as you would like to. And this is again where Gen.G's draft was focused, but because they spent most of their resources on the bottom side of the map, Rascal just ends up getting pummeled by this Kana, who's had something great for breakfast, I guess. And like, this is a player who we were touting in 2020 as one of the best new top laners.
Here we go again.
Once again.
Hextech Ultimatum is coming in. This time we have TP and Udyr coming in, but the damage is going to be enough. They take down Rascal already, and you can see Gen.G just on the run. The Encore is going to hit BDD, and he is in a lot of trouble already. Kana doing so much damage. BDD over the wall. He's actually going to get bopped down here by Faker, who goes for the flash and picks up the kill. Lands another root onto Clid, and this is just massive for T1. They pick up 3 kills in the engage.
This is not how this early game is supposed to look. This is not how this game was supposed to go, right? And then T1 are just controlling the game around topside, and this is a teleport from Faker that comes through. They have so much lockdown, and Gen.G really need to be careful about committing to these fights when, you know, Rascal gets caught here, Udyr is nearby, and everybody comes up to try to trade this up, and T1 is very happy to take the exchange. Cuz is once again here. Hextech Ultimatum buys time. You see Clid rotates around. The teleport comes through first. Teddy gives some extra shielding because he's got another global. And then Emperor's Divide isn't going to save you here. Faker's here. He ends up being the one who closes BDD's life out, or forces him to flash over the wall at first, and then does secure the kill himself. But like, this is a Seraphine that is out-rotating and out-valuing a very early Azir, and it's BDD's Azir, by the way. And this top side is just out of control. He's got his Everfrost up now.
Yeah.
That means Rascal actually dies so easy. It pops it here.
Yeah, this is a point where, like you say, I mean, Kana can maybe even just 100-0 you. Now with Everfrost, like, you're not really getting out of here. And it's going to be hard for you to even enter the lane. So you could say goodnight to your hopes of having a mid to late game Camille who's doing anything, because, you know, the split pusher is now Gragas, apparently. who has the advantage in the matchup in this current situation. And it's pretty big. So Gen.G, they did get the Rift Herald, and they are actually going to get this first Cloud Drake. So T1, I suppose, kind of caught out in an awkward timing here, and not really going to be able to challenge either of these objectives. But here comes the two-man Encore, and look at this synergy. The Hecarim over the wall, the Encore over the wall. And because it's just too fast, nobody can catch up to him. And Faker's having an insane game as well on the Seraphine.
Yeah, this is the kind of wombo combos we were talking about for team fights later. Is Rascal just going to die?
Yeah, like this is what I was saying. I mean, you can't even enter the lane.
Us is here.
You just have to run away.
Everfrost was just coming back online at that moment. He's going to use Clear the Wave now, but like these combos that you can have in the mid lane just make it so difficult to take a extended fight, because you're going to get caught by Hecarim's ult, Seraphine's ult, you know, and like later on you're going to have the ability to knock people into that with the cask around those later objective fights. So this is such a frustrating game for Gen.G because their comp was so good and it had so many win conditions, and mid lane was a place where they should have been strong. But unfortunately, they're just overextended here. They're getting greedy because, like, well, let's see, can we get a Drake and how many plates can we trade back with our Rift Herald in mid? And then he wants to just get even more value, and he's just unsuccessful, ends up getting punished for it. So what could have been, okay, yeah, we're losing top, but we got Drake and some turret plates, ends up being, well, we also lost BDD, and then T1 just trade back another kill. They're 3,000 gold up right now. With a composition where it felt like the top of the map should have been controlled by Gen.G, and T1 should have struggled through this part to hope for those later game team fights. They're going to those later game team fights ahead. And sure, there's good scaling with Ruler on the Ezreal, BDD's on the Azir. You have that split push potential, but the split push potential isn't going to be as good. BDD is having a really hard time, so he's not going to be hitting that late game damage as quickly as he wants to be. And then T1 just have so many ways to mess up your synergy in these fights with the comp they have.
Again, this is the thing where it's like, T1 now with the early lead, that's actually pretty massive. I mean, 3-0 Gragas, 3-0 Seraphine. The kills are going pretty much where you want them. You know, if Teddy was picking up more, that would have been nice, but he hasn't really been involved. And team fights were already going to be a problem for Gen.G, but now they're just almost impossible. Like, unless you're getting the perfect engage with BDD, even then. So, you know, you kind of have to lean back on, okay, we have some good split pushing, but again, like, Camille's kind of out of this game at this moment in time. She's so far behind. And, you know, it feels like, as you mentioned, these win conditions for Gen.G are just, like, disappearing one by one.
Yeah.
So, see what they can do.
This roster, oh, hold that thought. Life's going to eat some damage. This roster for T1.
Oh, no. I think Ruler's just dead here. Nice flash. Nice flash, buddy. Like, that's not going to help you out too much. Not against a fed Hecarim and a fed Gragas, not at this point in time.
Yeah. True Shot Barrage was hopeful at best. Let's try to trade back a kill. But this roster of T1 is the most experienced one that we've seen, basically. You've got Kana, who's played a great 2020, you know, is trying to bounce back in 2021, had a rough start. Faker, you know, arguably the most experienced player. Only Deft has played more LCK games than he has. You know, Cuz, Teddy, and Keria, who's not a rookie even himself. And let's see what they do with this advantage they have, because as we talked about before, T1 sometimes start off with an explosive early game, usually about half as good as this on average in terms of the gold lead, but then they end up messing up a lot of the fights because they have bad rotations or overextend, just don't understand the map well. And I am expecting that with this roster, they can take this lead into a bigger advantage as we watch this again. Poor Ezreal on the bot side. Nothing Ruler can do there.
Yeah.
Loses his flash, too.
You could have been any 80 carry. You're just dead if you're there. And this is the power of the Hecarim as well. I mean, he can just dive these turrets and make it look really easy. Like, even Life here, your ability to just engage like this is really rough for all these squishy characters on the other side to really deal with. So even Life, thankfully he did have the Blast Plant, but if he did not, would have had to flash away from that one. Yeah, and, you know, T1 have a really nice lead at this point in time. You can see the ridiculous amount of gold up that the Gragas is. Of course, with the fasting Senna, you're going to see the disparity there between the 80 carry and the support gold down on the bottom side. But really, it's all about the top side and how far ahead T1 is. But they do need to kind of push the issue now, right? Get these objectives and force Gen.G into the team fights, because that's where they are strong here.
Yeah, and Gen.G, because they got the first Drake, they actually have a little bit more time to kind of sit back and farm up. do stuff like this, put BDD in a side lane where he's going to get a little bit of extra gold because he needs to get those items online. You know, ideally he wants to hit 3 items in this game if he can, so that he can actually really, really hit that big damage in some of those later fights, the Baron fights. So, you know, if T1 grab this Ocean Soul, or rather Ocean Drake right now, you don't worry about it too much if you're Gen.G because you already have one and you know this is not going to be putting them on to like, okay, now they're 1 away from Soul Point.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Hey, yeah, here's Hecarim again. This time BDD, though, is going to get a really nice Emperor's Divide.
He has Flash, too.
Now, Cuz has got to be careful, right? You're going pretty deep, and he is going to see Clid and immediately back away. And so Hecarim able to extend on in there. BDD, though, really nice response. Doesn't even have to flash.
This is what you need to be doing if you're BDD, is seeing how far you can push the envelope on side laning, see how many minions you can get. As this time, it's Faker who's out in the open.
Yeah, he kind of got caught out here by himself in a 1v1 position, but he will have a lot of help from his teammates with the stopwatch coming in. Looks like Faker is in a bit of trouble, though. Kana trying to help out here, as Rascal is going to get booped down. But you can see the damage that BDD does do, even just on the 1.5 items. Kana is going to have to get out of here. Clid not going to be able to catch up, so we'll just end up
Into Deer Valdez, never underestimate.
Blast Plan's pretty strong, I guess.
Blast Plants, man, he's going in. But yeah, that was a really brilliant play from Gen.G to actually have that aggression there against Faker, into being a side lane mismatch up there. And, okay.
I don't know why we're face checking here, to be honest. Cuz is 1v4 at this point in time, and he is going to ult over the wall as the true shot barrage is just barely not going to hit him.
Cuz is teasing us with that one.
Now you can see Rascal, you know, Gen.G are beginning to feel it. They can feel like kind of the cracks in the armor right now, saying, okay, you're getting a little bit frisky. If we can catch you out a couple times, then we immediately get back into this game.
Oh, for sure. That's why, you know, T1 need to be on really, they need to be, like, putting Faker out here by himself against a Camille is such a risky play. And you can see how this exchange happens. Like, he ends up hitting the root, which is pretty huge, but Rascal gets out of it right away. Teddy comes in and he has the charm, and yet still Faker dies here. And Kana handles this pretty well, ends up getting the cask to lock Rascal in and then follows up, but he almost dies here because you can see he's built full damage, and like BDD's damage goes through that so quickly because he's starting to scale up. He's got his Void Staff online now. So you really have to be careful about getting caught out as T1 because you will be punished so hard for it.
Oh, the cask actually doesn't work because he was ever frosted to the ground, but this is a very fast Nautilus coming on in, as the hook shot is nicely buffered, but it is not going to matter too much. As 3v1 under the turret, that's the power of this comp. Like, you're not really safe under any turrets as anyone on the side of Gen.G.
Yeah, I think if T1 continue to group like this, and you trade a top turret for a bot turret like this, but this time it's an inner turret versus an outer turret for T1, you're very happy to kind of play this game. It's like trading up in chess when you're ahead pieces, and then suddenly, okay, T1 is like, okay, well, I'm ahead now, and I have more of the map controlled because, yeah, I'll give you an outer turret for an inner turret, and then when the next Drake comes up, which is Infernal Soul, by the way, which is really important to deny, especially against Gen.G's comp, then you have better position on those Drakes, as we'll watch this again. You know, there's no way out of this one for Rascal, unfortunately. The Everfrost anti-synergy there with the cask is kind of funny, but even still, unfortunately, he's not able to escape. Everybody is all grouped up, and I think if you group up like this to make sure you guarantee turrets, you're going to have a much better time as T1 right now, because you really just need to make sure you get objective after objective and don't get out-rotated.
Yeah, for sure. And Gen.G, they're just going to try to hold on here. You mentioned that one Cloud Drake that they got in the beginning of the game. That's actually incredibly important, right? It gives them an extra buffer. 5 minutes, 6 minutes to farm up and potentially get your split push online, because if you don't have that, you don't have much, right? And even if you are losing Infernal Drakes, you know, they're going to be decent for the side of T1, especially because the Gragas is going damage. You have the damage coming out from the Senna, which is going to be huge as well, and amplified with that Infernal Drake. But you said it before, the most important thing is denying it away from Gen.G and their incredible amounts of damage that they have in their composition, and making the 0 and 4 Camille actually turn into a crazy late game champion if they do pick up any of those Infernal Drakes.
Because of how T1 are building too, like, it does end up being really good for the Gragas. Like, the extra damage in Seraphine, you know, her damage is quite meager in general compared to other mid laners, but that's going to change that.
But
to get them all. It's like, I'm Udyr.
He almost dodged that ultimate.
Yeah.
And now we do have the rotation coming in. Chemtank is available for Keria, but he's not even going to use it. He's just letting Cuz chip away at Klid here. Cuz has to be careful, though, and now Cuz is just going to get caught out as the Encore is on to one member, and Teddy and Faker are here all alone. Gen.G find the opportunity to get on in there. The double kill comes in from the Udyr. Now Big Boy Kana is here. Can he turn this one around? Doesn't look like the answer is yes, as Rascal is frontlining now for his team. Keria just trying to sacrifice to save the rest of his lineup as T1 are desperate to try to disengage here on a very wonky and not a great engage there in the top lane.
And can I bring everyone's attention to the top left of your screens where the Infernal Drake is now live as this is happening. This comes up as T1 get pushed back. Gen.G need to be careful about over-chasing here because respawns are coming up and T1 can't contest this. But the timing of this overextension from Cuz could not be worse, right? Like, this is exactly when the Drake comes up, and this is what you cannot have happen. Why take a risk and actually go for a chase on an Udyr as T1 here when you could just walk and get Drake prio?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of an interesting arcane shift there from Ruler as T1 are still chasing. They want more. They want to kill something. They're angry. And yes, they're going to get BDD, but that is about it. They're trying to go and take the Baron off of this kill.
Yeah, I think this is what you have to try if you're T1 here because you have enough of an advantage. Unfortunately, they lost a lot of their power in that last exchange, right? They don't have the Hecarim ult. They're not going to have an explosive cast. They will have the Seraphine ult going into this, which is really great at preventing people from collapsing in.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they don't have all the tools here, so it's a little bit risky, but I think it's worth a shot.
Like you said, I think you have to try, right? You just gave up the Infernal Drake.
Gotta trade it for something.
And you're 5v4 here, so everybody dodges the True Shot Barrage, and that's actually a lot of damage denied from the Ezreal. Ruler is trying his best to try to chip away at the front line here, but it's not really working out too well. They're gonna try to zone away Klid. Not super successful, but they do have the damage onto the Baron, and it will be enough. No steal is going to come in here, as the cast from Kana is going to separate everybody. The Encore does nothing, as Klid is going to have to back away. They want more. Oh, Rascal's getting in there. That's pretty interesting, as Ruler just immediately dies, and now Rascal is all alone. Not sure about this one, Wolf. We're just turning it into a total clown fiesta in this game.
I mean, they really thought they were going to be able to force this into a Hextech Ultimatum, gets a pick, and then all the Ruler damage comes through the fall, but they can't. They can't do it. Oh,
we're still going. Cuz is like so angry after his play up on the top side. And you know what? I suppose he's making up for it. And we're just not ending.
This actually...
We're just not ending.
Yeah, this could end up being... well, this could be ending if anyone else gets picked. I mean, we are getting later on into the game. They have Baron buff. This is going to be an inhibitor, at least you would think. They're going to reset first, and they still have 2 minutes on this Baron buff, but the chase through was just absolutely crazy, and they do get the pick on the BDD here early on to set up for this Baron take. They have Seraphine's ult, which is really nice for disengage when the commitment comes through. It doesn't end up working out here for Faker, like he doesn't really end up catching anyone. But the issue is when they overextend chasing. Like, unfortunately, Gen.G, you didn't get it, okay? And right now you're 4v5 as BDD is not here yet, but Rascal says, I am. It goes through, and it's his Hextech Ultimatum is stopwatched.
Yeah, and
so
Keria hooks Ruler and 100 to zeros him with the team, so there's just zero follow-up.
BDD just isn't here for this fight, and you're way too overextended, Rascal, in this moment. And this almost feels like pent-up frustration from Gen.G more than anything else to actually continue to chase there, forcing a fight where it's like, you already lost the objective, you're not going to win this one, and Life gets one more shield and then goes down.
Yeah. You said pent-up frustration for Gen.G. I feel like T1 are also exhibiting that here in this game. It's just getting your frustrations out for both of these teams here in Game 1. Already 18 kills in 27.5 minutes. Pretty good for this matchup. As now with the Baron, T1 looking to push in and take away the one inhibitor for now.
Yeah, and then they can just rotate mid and try to repeat that. Right now, Rascal is hovering around, potentially setting up a split push if they do go hard. He does get the Rift Sculler, and he might be able to put a little bit of pressure on. He's going to take the Krugs. He can also set up for maybe trying to trade this into a Drake, but I mean, the timing of this is so unfortunate for Gen.G. Because T1 can get this and then rotate over. Like, if we were 30 seconds away, it'd be a different story. But they can't trade this. So they're just going to lose 2 inhibitors, and there's nothing they can do about it. Clear needs to be careful. He's so far out.
Yeah, you see that Rascal doesn't group up. There's no reason for him. Like, he might as well just try to eke out as much gold on the map as he possibly can, right? So he's taking the Krugs. It looks a little bit silly, but it's actually the right thing because even if he's there, I mean, he can't do anything about it. So.
He also was able to clear out vision on the Drake, grab a scuttle. Like, he's gotten value to really. Also, the wave was so pushed. Like, there was not much he could do. Like, are you really going to try to get an inner turret on the top or the bottom side of the map? Excuse me. To like, you know, while all this is happening, you're just putting yourself at risk. So it looked a little bit awkward, but I mean, at least they know that they have vision control for the moment, and they're going to see T1 when they arrive here with the Scuttler. Now the question is, can Gen.G take this fight, though, for this next Infernal Drake? Because with these super minions coming through, I don't think they realistically can.
No, it doesn't look like it.
But that's why that buffer that we were talking about earlier is so important. The fact that they got that first Drake, which means this is the first Infernal Drake, not the second here, not the third Drake for T1.
Why are T1 not just taking the Infernal Drake here?
This it's a little bit weird.
They're really trying to push the issue with the push. And yes, you can force 5v5s if you do that, but you're also diving turrets, and it can get a little bit dicey.
They realize, but
yeah,
that was a little bit... Like, I think if you're T1, you want to get this as fast as possible. You're hoping for the next Infernal Drake. Like, you want to keep that timer as short as possible. As True Shot Barrage, it was a cool idea, but no information whatsoever to steal that one away. They do end up getting it. The kind of happy feeding around the mid lane there meant that they lose a little bit of time on inhibitors without gaining anything, and this next Infernal Drake lose a few seconds on the speed of which that's going to come up.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
I think Rascal's just dead here. He is he's surprisingly tanky. It doesn't matter. As Kana is legendary. 8-0 on AP top Gragas. Give this guy the player of the game already because he has just totally owned this one and smurfed in the top lane.
I mean, he is doing so well. It's like actually insane what he's been able to accomplish. And a matchup we thought was going to be stable, but you know, it's difficult, but if you play it right, you hit those casts correctly, you know, under turret when you see Could come through, it's like, okay, this could go well for him. He had one of the highest isolated deaths actually across the league in the top lane because of his overextensions, his aggression in the top side of the map, how many times he died solo. But he's in fact just stomping it right now. It feels like 2020 Kana all over again. And T1 have not played a perfect game by any means. There have been some small micro decisions they've made around, you know, team fights or around some macro decisions too, like where they're going to be on the map, how quickly they didn't take that Infernal Drake. But they have such a lead right now because of how this top side of the map went and just by the nature of how Senna scales up that it's very difficult to imagine Gen.G coming back into this game now. Once the inhibitors are gone, they don't have side lane pressure. Like, this is what happens when you try to side lane. Uh-oh, you get caught, you get punished. And, you know, how do you get back into the game here, unfortunately, anymore? For Gen.G, it's so difficult. They have the damage scaling, but they are never going to have control of the map ever again.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting, too, that Kana did go for the AP Gragas because it feels like this is the one way that you actually handle the Camille through, you know, through the mid-game and even up to the later stages of the game, if you're this far ahead, right, in this current scenario. If you're just the tank Gragas, I think you lose a lot of the value. So I like the choice of the item build that he does go for here. T1, pretty comfortably just going to run at the Baron here. It is spotted.
Yeah, this is the vision control I was talking about. They see it, but they can't rotate it once those are cleared. I mean, how do you walk in here safely with all the lockdown, all the wombo, all the ultimates that come through the T1 to shut you down when you group up? It's so difficult to engage. Clid's trying to bait it.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, they're going to land the root here, and they actually catch 2. Here we go. The Hecarim goes in, and down goes the Karma to start us off. Kana does take a lot of damage in the front line. BDD does his ultimate for about 0 reason. Tries to put up a wall, potentially. As now Rascal up on the top side getting caught out, but here on the right, Keria is looking to engage. BDD desperately trying to 1v5, but is not going to be able to. They need to get onto Ruler, though, who is actually doing a lot of damage by himself, but now all alone, and the range of Teddy is just going to slap him down as
things coming through. They want to end this game right now. They're going to reset. They've got teleports, Kana and Faker. And I mean, look, we talk about all the wombo potential, the Seraphine ult, the Encore that can come through with the Hecarim ult. It's actually a Senna that gets a double root that starts the fight off for T1. Like, that's not the one we're even talking about. That's not even supposed to happen.
Against 2G.
Yeah. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh, man. This is great game for T1 to start us off.
Yeah, people are going to look at the scoreline and they're going to see Khan and they're going to be like, how did that happen? Like, how is this possible? Well, the guy just had an incredible game, and T1 really showed up to play tonight. A fantastic showing in game number 1.